and in earnest, and you say something like, we should kill all of XYZ people, and it's one of those four groups that apply. If you do that publicly, that's a crime. If you say, hey guys, let's meet in my basement and let's plan a genocide, and you do it, you plan it, that's a crime. That's conspiracy to commit genocide. If you go ahead and you attempt a genocide. Hey, we had that great plan. Let's do it. And you run outside and you're surrounded by 10,000, I don't know, Ukrainians who are going to stop you. Just the attempt itself is a crime. And then the other one that's really important here is the abetting genocide. So if you know a genocide is going on, like in Ukraine, we know it, you know it. Not everybody acknowledges it, but if I come along and I say, Mr. Putin, I love you, I clap every time you walk off an airplane when you get here. I'm so excited. I would like to help you with the genocide. And then you go ahead and you say, hey, let's start on the crazy side in negotiations and give everything away, including the people, so that it's more easy for you, Mr. Putin, to kill them. That would be abetting a genocide. That's an extreme example. But any of those things are also crimes in addition to what is in part two of the Genocide Convention, which you covered very well the last time you spoke of it, that I heard, anyways. And those are those five crimes. So that's it. I think that really actually covers it well enough.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good detail, because I don't think that people understand that you can be complicit. And I do know that Sweden is is doing a lot. They're currently working on another package, and I lost track of how many we have sent. And I'm I'm actually excited to see what this is because there are so many rumors floating around outside, online. And so by the time that this shows up, one, I'm curious to see how many things that they will list and how much humanitarian aid is going, because they need help. I know that there have been private fundraisers that have raised money for generators for hospitals and stuff like that. Um, I know that has happened in Sweden. I know one truck has already departed, the one with the generators. And the funniest thing is, I found another truck and they were asking for help to donate or to raise the money to actually physically get the trucks from Sweden to Ukraine. They only wanted to cover, the travel cost. And they ended up raising so much money that they could send two trucks. How amazing is that? So people from like all over just decided that, this is worth me spending money on, which I am super grateful for. Thank you. And so now they have two trucks that will go to Ukraine. And I thought that this was like humanitarian aid. This will go to Kiev and we will help, or Kharkiv or Kherson. But it's actually going to April Huggett. I had no idea that this is going to help. Uh, is it the 95th Alcatraz? Anyways, so it's going to April Huggett. This is going to the front lines and it contains medical kit, it contains all kinds of goodies. And April was over the moon when she realized they could now have two trucks because they have covered all the expenses to take two trucks, full semi trucks from Sweden to Ukraine. I thought that was amazing. Um, but there are countries here in Europe that are idly standing by, not naming anyone in particular, but Orban. Orban has been doing a lot of crap. I don't know how much, like, how much this has made the news in the in the US, and it doesn't always make the news even here in Sweden, but he's doing a lot to slow down the aid from coming from the EU itself. And that is just piles of cash. Just saying, sometimes they use the money to buy things to send to Ukraine, but for the most part, it's like propping up the Ukrainian economy. It is spending money to help to um, fix the damaged electrical lines, these kind of things. And Orban is, because everybody in the EU have to agree to spend money, EU money, in a certain way. Orban has veto rights, and he has used them, and he will be judged harshly. He's already judged harshly by me, but he will be judged harshly by history. And so it's sad to see that we have a rat like this in our midst here in Europe, that they can watch their neighbor be slaughtered the way that they are being murdered. I will still refer to the image of a 10-year-old boy who was unfortunately murdered by Russians. He was sleeping in his bed. Um, and the reason why this image sticks in my head is because he is wearing the pajamas that my sons also had. And to me, it was like a flashback to when my kids were little. And I we all find these points in the in this war where we it becomes very personal to us. And that is mine that became really, really personal. Um, just saying. Anyways, uh, I see that Firefella has woken up. Good morning.
He may be in the process of transitioning up to co-host and can't unmute himself. Good morning, fire fella. I'm sorry if I made mockers wake you up.
It's a cruel service. It's a cruel service. They drag you out of bed at 2 in the morning. Ah, what can I say? Or well, whatever time it is where you are. And you know what,
Morning, James.
Yenny? Hey, fire fella! I'm glad you woke up. I'm gonna lay off, but I just want to say, Jenny, I had heard that I heard a guy speaking before the Council of Europe, I guess it was, saying, "Why are we giving Orban all this money? After all the things he's done." And I mean, he said it much more elegantly and for several minutes, but do you know about this? Did they just send him a bundle of cash? I mean, Orban, that is.
Kind of. So right now the EU is, because of the situation in Europe, um, they're telling every country that we have to do certain upgrades to our infrastructure. I can only speak about Sweden, and I only know this because my sister is involved in one of these projects. We have to reinforce every bridge in Sweden so that you can have a line of tanks run over them to pass over them. We have to widen them, and we have to reinforce them so that they can take the weight, because you can't have like one tank roll over and then wait for that one to get to the other side before the next tank rolls over. Then you just end up being Russia. In we're going to take Kiev in 3 days, and then we're going to have like a 4 mile column of tanks that can be easily picked off. And so to expedite things, we have to reinforce infrastructure, and every country in Europe has had to look at what their country needs to do to be prepared for war. And then we have to spend money to do these upgrades. And every country was allowed to put in a petition like, okay, this is going to cost us X amount of euros. We would like to have a grant from the EU of this amount. We will pay for the rest ourselves. And Orban is getting, or Hungary is getting, the biggest grant of all of the countries in the EU. We're talking 17.1 billion euros. And I am not happy about this because they have gotten so much money in the past to do upgrades to the infrastructure. And they are one of the countries that get the most money, the most grants from the EU, yet they are the poorest country. It's like they are not using the money in a good way. They're wasting the money. Shocker, I know.
Thank you for that. That's a great explanation. It makes sense. Do you think he'll spend it on those bridges?
No, I think that he will squander this money like he has done with all the other money that he has gotten from the EU. And I find it shocking that his well, not shocking really, his son-in-law has become a billionaire or a millionaire, billionaire. I don't remember which one. It doesn't really matter. Just adds in a few zeros at the end. But he has apparently a construction company. I don't know if he had the construction company when before Orban came into power, but he certainly got it after. And he gets the government contracts. Shocker. Hmm, Funny how that works.
Thanks.
I see. Yeah, you're
You got the
welcome.
con now, fire fella. I'm out.
I'm also happy that I don't remember if it was Zelensky that was speaking clearly, saying we will now treat Hungary as a um, hostile neighbor, and good for them. And also asking Orban to not use Ukraine as part of their election campaigns because the election is getting close. I think it's in April. War doggo. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Hope everyone is doing okay and everything is well. Uh, just to mention, as we were supposing, all the requests for Russia not to hit Ukraine's infrastructure when it is coldest, actually, uh, we suppose that Russia will use that to accumulate the means of attack and do actually the opposite what they were asked. They will strike Ukraine when it is the coldest. So yes, it's exactly happened while the previous night was among the coldest, more than 20 to minus 20 degrees Celsius or minus 4 Fahrenheit. Russia shot 500 drones and 65 missiles on Ukraine's major cities. It was Kiev under attack, it was Chernihiv, it was Vinnytsia, it was Odessa, of course, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Dnipro, Sumy, so the major cities of central and eastern part of Ukraine. And you know what? The drones that the briefs from the drones show that those drones were produced within the range of previous 2 weeks, and also the missiles. So that's for you the kind of live reassurance that Russia is playing um, U.S. administration as the violin, and unfortunately, Russia is doing the Russian things. They are not hitting the civilians deliberately for the previous, 4 years, but they're hitting the civilians for 11 years since they've started the war in Ukraine. But that's the reality. Unfortunately, someone needed to get it clear, and someone got it in the bad way. Actually, you give Russia time, Russia stockpiles the means of attack, and Russia attacks when it is the worst moment. That's the reality. Back to you.
So yeah, I because I know that Russians are lying when they open their mouth. I didn't believe in the ceasefire, but I actually thought that they had some kind of honor in their bones. And yet again, they proved to me that they do not. Um, and these are actually war crimes, and it's part of a genocide, which we have already covered in the previous segment when I talked about this. Hitting the electrical infrastructure in order to freeze the civilians in Ukraine is one of the acts of genocide. Don't forget that. They're doing this deliberately because they think that this will break the Ukrainian spirit and that they will give up and then go like, oh, yes, oh, well, we're going to go to Mother Russia. No, this is awful. And they should not be allowed to get away with this. And this is what you should call your politicians about, and like call Russia out on this. And I don't know, get your thumb out of your fucking ass and actually start taking control over the Shadow Fleet. There are currently 12 ships in European waters that are up for grabs. Hop to it. I saw that at least three of them are in the Baltic Sea. I don't know what the hell that the Swedish Coast Guard is doing, but I think that they have three boats to board. Just saying. It pisses me off. I don't know if you guys can tell. Mockers, good morning.
Morning. So what War Doggo said there was quite telling, that Russia only agreed to this ceasefire so that they could build up some more, munitions to throw at Ukraine. I did say this, didn't I? That it looked as though they were getting a bit short. They're now producing things like, just in time to use them, basically. And well, if their production is taken out, that's what's required. Haven't we had loads of opportunity to help Ukraine take out their production, and we just haven't taken it? I'm a little bit disappointed by that. I'm more than disappointed by that. Let's just say, if I was to tell you how I really feel, you'd all have sore ears. And just on top of that, the inevitability of this was, I mean, we all knew it was coming, didn't we? Very typical that they've, timed it just like this. And no big surprises, I'll be totally honest. But, oh, come on. There was something that I really wanted to say, and it was right there. It was right there in my head, and it's just run away. I'll come back to you.
Good
Go ahead,
morning,
Lord,
Fire.
while I get my head together.
Yeah, go ahead, War Doggo.
While you uh, while you get that thing that was just ear close and disappeared, let me tell you that in fact Russia is not getting what they are targeting by bombing the civilians. We've been discussing it just yesterday. One of Ukraine's trust wars among trust wars, the poll centers, that is called KIS, or in Ukrainian KMIS. They do reliable polls, they do pretty good research, and government is always tracking what is the society opinion towards certain specific things, and considering Ukraine's war, and considering all the effort that Russia throw in order to break the morale of the civilians, they understand they cannot break the front lines because Ukraine is holding strong. They are advancing on a turtle speed in the war that they have said 3-4 days, and it's even, I would say, disrespectfully mocking them being incapable, but in other on the other hand, it gives all the tribute for the brave people of Ukraine, because army is made of people, is not just some abstract mechanism that holds the line. Those are the people, yesterday civilians, who changed their civil professions to the military uniform, and they are holding the line. Russia cannot do anything on the front lines, and they deliberately chosen the tactics to just simply smashing civilians and civilian infrastructure to break the to break the to break the society that is backing up the front line. And by backing up the front line, I mean not only the country's economy, which is working despite the war, the international partners and our friends all around the world supporting Ukraine, so Ukraine's economy do not crash. And behind the front line, there is the powerful structure that is actually helping to hold the line. So they deliberately decided to break Ukraine's will to resist. And what I just put in the nest is exactly the formal poll numbers that say that despite Ukraine's being bombed on a daily basis, uh, Ukraine's, despite the missile strikes, blackouts, constant pressure, we show constant red lines that no surrender, no loss of sovereignty, no fake peace, and Russia can damage the infrastructure, but they are not lucky. They are not. They are not successful in breaking Ukraine's morale. And when in many countries, I hear people saying that we have our own problems, we have many things to do. Ukraine is far, is not our business. Why we should care? That's something that is understandable. But as once certain materials, like on the Epstein files, elites corrupted, and all of this KGB honey trap released, you actually start getting that our enemy is the same and is not that kind of far from being personal also to you. And that's why supporting Ukraine is important. And look, if Ukraine is holding strong, why anyone else should be should be giving up the idea of fighting back the evil that Russia is bringing, corrupting the elites, making the horrible things. And that's their style since ages. If you think that is something that only like previous 10 or 20 years have brought to us, just simply be brave like Ukraine. And tell if you hear people who say that Ukraine is not their priority. In fact, if Ukraine was the priority since 2014, we would not be where we are. History doesn't like all of this buts and ifs, but it gives always a retrospective. And breaking the Russians' aggression spine in 2014, when they just simply did the try and get of what if we use our army as let's say, as the instrument of our geopolitics, and if we add the fuel to burn the world in a fire of using the brutal force to satisfy our needs. If at that moment it was clearly shown that, you know what, you're not gonna do this, because there is still the intention to keep the rule of law, but not the law of the powerful, and so far and so on. trust me, we would not be there where we are heading now. So it was much cheaper to manage the things back in 2014, and still it is much cheaper now to manage versus how much it will cost to manage in the future. That's why many people in Ukraine supporting not only their friends, beloved, who are literally holding the line against this evil to come their homes. They also understand that if is not um, is not to be managed now. Unfortunately, we didn't have our resources alone in 2014, and we don't have our resources to manage it alone now. That's why help and support needed. But what I'm trying to say with all of this, what I've been mentioning, is Ukraine is still holding strong. We keep telling that Ukraine still holds strong, but I brought you the formal poll evidence that what Russia is trying to achieve, they are not achieving. They are not successful in that, and this is another perspective to be excited how under this horrible circumstances one can hold strong. And again, I repeat, be brave like Ukraine and support Ukraine. For that, we have the initiatives that you can scroll the nest and you can see how you can support literally people we are supporting since many years. This beautiful community is doing a great thing by sharing the context of Ukraine, and you know much better many things in when some politicians start earning some political gains by like putting shit on Ukraine, or overall just simply having no understanding of Ukraine. You already recognize this, that there's a bullshit, because you know how the things are in fact. And this is what this community is up to, doing the very good thing. Thank you so much for that. And like the formal or non-formal but very material thing, you can scroll a couple of times the nest and you can see my report for all 33k of the proactive fundraiser being used to bring gear and different equipment that we were discussing before, one by one, because every time we had people who came up and they were asking for these things, every line that you can see there, and delivered and already being mm, in Alpha SBU guys, 18th Brigade National Guard guys, and many others who've been asking for certain things that would make them to do their job better. And what's their job? Their job is to hold the line and to keep Russia from doing what they're intending to do. And trust me, if they get any next 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, they will keep pushing for more. And that's why it is important to make them feel that they cannot do this. And that's why it is important. Thanks. Back to you.
Marcus, go ahead.
I remember what I was going to say. Somebody said to me not that long ago, it's going to get worse before it gets better, because Russia is now in the end stages of flailing before they die. Their economy is absolutely broken. Their production is literally just in time at this point. You know, it's a mess. All they need is those final shoves in the right direction, and they'd be done. Which is why what Jenny said is really important. We need to bag those ships as soon as possible, even if we just delay them by a week and then let them go, because we need to stop that money flow, to stop things from being able to be produced. I mean, you know, either we take it out, smash it up so that they can't do it, or we cut off the money. One way or another, we got to cut their throat. And it's getting to the point where Russia is literally, you know, flailing in their last attempts to make everybody, kneel for them. And it shows a weakness that they've not shown before. So there's that. Thanks. I had to get that off my chest.
Well, thank you, Mockers, and thank you. I've got the floor now, Jenny, for a couple of minutes. I think I need to send some apologies to everybody for causing such concern this morning. I don't know what happened. I didn't even have a drink last night. I just passed out and woke up to the phone going and Mockers going, "Are you asleep?" Yeah, so that was that. So I apologise profusely to everybody for that, and I thank everybody for covering for the 20 minutes that I wasn't around this morning. And yeah, if people want to know why I changed my name, we can do that later. But I'm still me, and Russia's still burning, and War Doggos and Mockers are absolutely right. They're in the last throes of everything, people. They're gonna, like a little tantrum from a child, they're gonna throw their toys out their pram and have a go, and that's what we're seeing. Yes, James.
Yes. You know, it really occurred to me. I looked at the polling numbers. I thought about the intent, and we just talked about genocide. And so I had prepared something quite a while ago, and I just wanted to read out this preface to Putin's, his tirade that was called on the what was it, the unity of the Slavic people, or whatever the hell his 5,000 word essay was. Here's how it goes. The reader should know that Putin's essay is intended to, one, deceive the reader into accepting Russia's contention that Ukraine is and should be formally a part of Russia; two, justify Russia's large scale invasion of Ukraine; and three, justify Russia's intended genocide of Ukraine. The deception begins in the title, saying unity of Russian and Ukrainian people, and ends with Russia will never, has never been, and will never be anti-Ukraine. That is literally what it says. And what Ukraine will be, it is up to its citizens to decide, is how it actually finishes. So, wow. Anyways, the ongoing war is evidence of the extreme lack of unity today, and at least until this war is over, their unity extends to this: both peoples are human, both use the Cyrillic alphabet, and share some history, including the breakup of the Soviet Union. The breakup began the legal divergence and the end of any claim by Russia or any other nation to Ukrainian people or territory. Russia and Ukraine are two new nations now internationally recognized. As you will read, if you actually read his statement, uh, Russia now wishes us to set aside international law to take the land and the people of Ukraine.
I have a question for you, James. Have you um
Had
have you
coffee
done
too
a
late in the
search?
day? Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, the yeah, I'm working on my first cup. No, but have you done a search in this document where he talks about the expansion of NATO?
I read it some months, like 9 months ago, most recently. So I can't say I have a clear recollection of that section, but I'm sure he does.
No, he does not.
He doesn't.
Because if this is the no, if this is the whole essay about him taking Ukraine, it makes no mention of NATO expansion, NATO or NATO expansion. And yet, that is the most common Russian piece of disinformation that I hear. It's the one that I hear the most, right? And it makes no mention in this document of NATO or NATO expansion. So if you ever hear that, it's like utter fucking nonsense. Just shoot it down straight away. One, it was never ratified. It was a private conversation between, I believe, Bill Clinton and or one or Bush Senior and uh, was it Gorbachev? Uh, who cares? It again, it was like a casual conversation. It was not, oh, let's make this thing a reality, that it will not expand eastward. That is my first problem with this. So it wasn't even a memorandum. The Budapest Memorandum has more standing than this casual conversation regarding NATO expanding eastward. So that's one. Two, that totally dismantles this, would take away the sovereignty of every single nation: Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, any nation that was like part of the iron, like behind the Iron Curtain before, that has since joined NATO or the EU for that matter. It takes away their sovereignty. They are not allowed to make decisions regarding the national security of their nations. What nonsense is this? Obviously, it's not up to Russia, the the Russian Republic. It's not up to the Kremlin and Washington to decide what alliances Romania gets into. It's up to Romania and the Romanian people. End of story. I will die on that hill. Just saying. So sorry. War Doggo, go ahead.
Yes, reading recently the former U.S. CIA director's memoirs that were mainly concentrated on Iran. The book calls Back Channel, and this is the William Burns, uh, and his his part of the book that is related to negotiations with Russians when Barack Obama being doing those when the cabinet of Barack Obama when the office of Barack Obama being doing the whole apparatus of Barack Obama, then before the Bush Jr. Being doing so, and he was involved in arranging those negotiations, being there physically, hearing what people were saying. He comes to the conclusion about Russia that whatever you try to make a dialogue with them, whatever you're trying to, you know, by this, both parties have the right to say. You're trying to use this democratic mechanism of trying to hear them out and trying to understand their point of view, so far and so on. Every time they will turn the things the way, they always will, if they don't have this kind of quote unquote offense that they were promised but not given, they were promised not to expand NATO, or if they don't have the reason, they will invent one, and they will always put you in the position that they were not giving something that you have to now to change what you're doing, just strictly to follow what they are requiring. That's kind of the professional diplomat, and I trust William Burns is a very good diplomat, not being just the former CIA director, but having his whole career, let's say, proving that he is a quite a capable man, and trying to get this, and being, by the way, the ambassador of the United States in Russia as well, living there, speaking with them. At the end, his section of his books on Russia just simply says, whatever you're trying to negotiate, it makes no sense, because they will be always offended, they will always play the victim role, and you will always be guilty for not giving them whatever they were wanting, and they will simply make it up in the way that you always feel that you didn't do anything, and you have to immediately satisfy their requirements. Whatever you've been doing, you've been listening to them, you've been not listening to them, so why at all to have any kind of negotiation with the one who is always trying to manipulate, and the one who is trying to abuse, and using democratic demo part of, I don't know, is probably not very common these days, but I'm saying democratic values is using it as the blame mechanism, or I don't know, as a weakness. And that's kind of the thing about Russians, that you can discover on the battlefield, you can discover in the international sphere, you can discover. So when the Russians back up, when the Russians just simply go away, when they are smashed. You remember all of the gestures of the goodwill, starting from the Kiev campaign, then Kharkiv campaign, where the nose bleeding, they start lying that they did it deliberately because of their goodwill. That's actually what's happening. We've been observing that not so far ago. Then there was back in the history, you can take, I don't know, Finland, you can take Crimean War, you can take any war where Russia have been losing, and they were always setting up how grateful they are, how generous they are, because simply they couldn't afford. And they were losing, and that's why they're gestures of the goodwill. So we need just to push them for the gestures of the goodwill and let them burn or rot in their swamps. I don't care. They just simply have to leave their neighbors alone. And finally, this final stage of empire rotten has to come to an end. Unfortunately, it was a mistake back in the years after the Second World War, when this shithole just literally jumped from the aggressor's side to the Allies' side, who won the Second World War, and unfortunately that fixed Soviet Union in the position they were having million army in Europe, and they were blackmailing to get the territorial gains. And that's kind of the historical heritage that they feel right now. But they're not even close to that stand these days. They're losing the Far East. China is slowly but surely getting it from that, while their army is on the west, assaulting the front lines of the country, whom they were calling brothers, but they were calling brothers by just simply sharpening the knife for many years, because for them Ukraine prosperous and democratic is just, another example that they have wasted so many times, so many resources, uh, making their own country prosperous and good one, instead of living as a shithole and just corrupted politicians who create the KGB honey traps. You can imagine how idiot and miserable one should be, wasting his country's wealth in creating such crap as that recently released. But everyone knew. That's why most probably it doesn't make too many shock to the society, because simply everyone knew it was like this. And the first moment I have heard about that thing, I said that this is the KGB common style. They were doing this historically since the NKVD, KGB, FSB times. This is their pattern. But okay, nevertheless, you can bring your personal support to guys fighting on Ukrainian front lines. You can check the nest by just scrolling, and you get the fundraisers that bring the proactive help to guys who need that. Currently, we are focused on bringing the diesel air heaters, diesel air heaters to the Ukraine front lines positions. You can see video in the nest that is saying Andriy 18th Brigade already got there. Alpha SBU is also getting it today and yesterday and today. Also other guys from different brigades are for them is on the way, and we will we'll try to do as much as possible, but for that we need just your help and resources to simply purchase and then deliver. You can scroll the nest to see the fundraiser. You can, if you will be listening this episode in recording, you can just simply type in your browser givebutter.com /proactive, and that's how you get it to the fundraiser details. You can see the donations coming live with the Sunflower Seeds Ukraine, the US registered charity. The donations are tax deductible for US and Canadian citizens, which is also a good help to make the things work. And yeah, maybe I forgot something, or maybe I was not precise. Please correct me, or if you have any questions, I will be here for some time listening. So far, I believe that's it from my side. Back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I do have a question because this is something that frustrates me greatly. Is it frustrating Ukrainians that this is not being that like media around the world is not labeling this a genocide? And second, it pisses me off to no end when when people I speak to call it Ukraine's war. I'm like, no, Ukraine was living there peacefully doing their own thing, and out of nowhere, Russia decided to get involved. And
This is just people ignorance. They don't want to go into the details, and Russians they're unfortunately abusing and they're also manipulating uh, our call it quote unquote Western mindset. We try to get to the root cause, we try to understand, and we are trying to give both parties to share their opinions, and that's somewhere where Russia is playing the game, and that's how sometimes it gets, people saying Ukraine's war instead of saying war in Ukraine. That has been the brutal invasion that Russia have started. And yeah, the right wording matters. It is not always says that people think that Ukraine started the war. Sometimes it's just trying to say that this is the war in Ukraine, and sometimes people don't want to get into details. They just some Slavs uh, are are at war against each other. It's not like that. There is one country, as I rightly said, living its peaceful life under the fake security guarantees of the one who actually attacked. And then here we are, where we are, requiring help and trying to integrate and run away, integrate into the world that we belong, because Russia just, since the previous aggression, um, turned Ukraine into a Russian Soviet colony. But in fact, Ukraine was part of democracy. For that, you can just simply go to Austria, Vienna, and you can see 1960, 1,683 Cossacks, monument to Cossacks, Ukraine, defending the south of Europe, being among those who helped to defend the south of Europe. And that's the one of the answers to Russians were Ukraine being before the Soviet Union and all of that. Yes, it is that it doesn't help, but it means people is not a problem, is an opportunity, and the opportunity and great job that this community does explaining the context of Ukraine and making people literally understand what does it mean, and also understanding that this is not only Ukraine's matter, but this is matters for everyone, and we would be living in a different world if Russia got punished for what they do in the right the beginning of their imperial recovery intentions, call it like this. That's my opinion. Maybe it's wrong, but I believe, from my perspective, I see it so.
You're a better person than I am, because I get quite violent with my speech sometimes, and I put people straight, and I really do try to educate them, and I do start out nicely. But yeah, no, they fuck Russia. They can go eat a bag of dicks for all I care. Well, actually, they already are in the trenches, aren't they? Oh, sorry, laughing at that one. No, it frustrates me to no end when they're they're blaming the wrong person. It really does. Um, I cut you off, Firefella. Go ahead.
No. It's absolutely fine. We'll come back to this, Yenny, in a minute. I've got a couple of things to say following what Mockers and War Doggo said, but Awana's here, so go ahead, sweet. Awana, can you speak? Can you hear her, Jenny? I can't hear her.
No.
No. Okay,
Nope.
fine. So
She might be away from the phone because she's not unmuting either. So
no.
go ahead,
Okay.
Firefella.
So just go back to what Mocker said about flailing. So if people think about it as this is a boxing match, and one of the contestants is on their last legs, people doesn't mean to say they still can't hit you, because they can, but they just need a couple of good last minute slugs. And as going to NATO expansion, now this has been knocking around for years, and it is, you're absolutely right, part of Russian propaganda. So in Gorbachev's actual memoirs, and he was recorded on film by uh, an interviewer, and they were given that question: did that conversation ever take place? And he went, no, it never ever happened. It's a figment of imagination. And if people remember, Chernobyl was the the straw that broke the camel's back, insofar as that led to the breakup of the Russia, and that happened on Ukrainian soil for whatever reason. And if you've seen the miniseries, I think it's historically correct in the terms of the way that it happened and the events that led to the explosion of reactor number 4, and the reasons behind. Uh, I think they're pretty. That's pretty spot on. But that actually led to, and what did they do to start with? They completely and utterly denied it, until I think it was the Swedish laboratories picked up the radiation leaks and went, excuse me, this is the only type of radiation that you have. Nobody else in the world has it, so you're lying. So they will lie through their teeth till they're damned, until you put the information in their face and go, no, you're absolutely lying. So that piece of propaganda never actually happened. It was never talked about, NATO expansion to Gorbachev, and he never brought it up, and nor did the West in part of the negotiation. So people, I can't. While you lot were talking, I was trying to find it, but there's an interview, and I will hunt it out in the next couple of days and put it in the nest. But it never happened, people. Never happened. And War Doggo is absolutely right. This is the moment when we should absolutely push harder. So send them the money that they need, support the fundraisers, get War Doggo and his people all the equipment they need, because they are absolutely laying waste to the Russians at the moment. I mean, they're knocking out battalions, 2 or 3 battalions a day that they're sending forward. So it's not a happy place for the Russians at the moment. And like Marcus says, they just need a couple of more swift kick in the bollocks, and they'll fall over. So I'm going to stop there. See if Awana's up. Oana, can you talk now?
Yes, yes. I don't know if you called
Yeah,
me earlier. I was coming up, so maybe I didn't hear you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's fascinating how Russia is choosing to, give importance to some alleged agreements, whispers in the wind, tickles in the gut. I don't know what exactly, but ignore completely the agreements that it signed officially, like recognizing independence of Ukraine in 91, like the Budapest Memorandum in 1994, like all the agreements for ceasefires or peace, like the agreement of taking back the forces in Transnistria, not to mention other countries. So they choose to recognize or to enforce something that maybe never happened, and I do believe it never happened, but they ignore agreements that they signed, including one that they signed alongside the US and UK, the Budapest Memorandum. So what I wanted to say is that if we let this happen, we head towards total anarchy. And I'm not talking just about Russia. I'm talking in general about what is happening right now. If we choose to if we let them choose what rules they like to obey and make their own rules, where we are as humanity, because the international order is based on rules, and that makes things work in this clock-like mechanism. I mean, countries respecting each other, borders being held not by force but by common mutual understanding. If we choose to ignore this, if we choose to let forces like Russia because they can, forces like US because they want, and other to work like this, we are basically back to anarchy. And we cannot let this happen. And it is in the interest of Europe, but in the world in general, to defend Ukraine and to defend those rules that we kind of live by. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
no, no. Thank you, Anna. So yeah, so I can't. How many times Putin has actually recognised Ukraine, and that's all on tape as well, and he's just ignoring it all because he's that sort of person. Now, Yenny, it's coming out at that time. Aren't we supposed to do the numbers? I don't know if you've got them to hand. I can find them.
I can find them really quick because there's actually a Swedish guy that reposts them every morning, so I don't have to scroll through the chats in the background. So give me 2 ticks and I will find them.
Absolutely. And I'll just apologise for everybody again for being such a numpty this morning and sleeping in while you're finding that. You got 'em?
That fire fella is something you don't have to worry about because yeah, there's always somebody to fill in for you. And if you slept through this and didn't get here on time, there's a reason. You were tired.
Yeah, what annoys me more, James, is I didn't even have a drink last night, knowing that I was on this morning. I thought, my last thought going to sleep was, don't forget to wake up early because you're on. And I missed it. What a plonker. Anyway, Jenny,
I usually do the same. But this morning, I guess it's what is it called? Kismet. It was meant to be. This morning, usually I wake up like 5, 10 minutes before the show starts. I have even cut as close as 1 minute before. But this morning, I woke up at before 7 o'clock, and this I wasn't supposed to go start co-hosting until 8. So I was awake and I had walked the dog and everything before 8 o'clock in the morning and got my son out the door and everything. It was a good morning, good start to the morning. But I do have the numbers. Eliminated Russian personnel from the battlefield, wounded, dead, and missing 760. That's down a little bit compared to the previous days, but you know what? Maybe they don't have as much people anymore. And so the grand total is 1,200,000 and 42,290 eliminated Russians from the battlefield in one way or another. Uh, oh, maybe this is why there's fewer people, because they found 6 tanks. Wow, where did they find those? I didn't think that Russia had any left because the total number is 11,633 tanks. That's a lot of tanks. Uh, 4 armored combat vehicles. That total is now 23,985. 53 artillery systems. Holy crap. That takes it to a total of 36,855. No additional MLRS, so that stays the same. And one lonely little air defense system that gave up the spirit the previous 24 hours, taking the total to 1,292. No helicopters or aircraft, but 1,171 operational tactical UAVs. That is a lot. And that was why they were asking for the ceasefire. They were trying to build up so that they would have something, those Russian dirty bastards. Taking it to 122,388. No cruise missiles, no ships, no submarines. Oh my God. Can you imagine losing ships and boats to a country that doesn't have a substantial navy? Uh, the Russians should hang their heads in shame. They're not a superpower, at least not militarily, and their economy is tanking. They're billionaires in the world that have more money than the Russian economy at this moment. Let that sink in. Um, 153 automotive and fuel tanks, taking the total to 76,738, and one special equipment, taking that total to 4,058. Yikes. Sucks to be Russian. Well, actually, that sucks every day. I'm so glad I'm not a Russian. Um, yeah, those numbers. Yikes. I will look for um, the Air Force report as well, if you give me a few seconds.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just feeling sorry for myself and stuffing the nest. And thank you, Prince, for helping us out. So we have some. Don't forget, we have some stuff to talk about because I believe the Baltics have been quietly sorting out air defence, and I want to talk about that. So, but anyway, what are the numbers, Jenny?
I haven't found the Air Force report yet. Hold on.
Can I just ask, since Yenny talked about NATO, not being in Putin's document, I did hear about NATO quite a bit from this guy Grigory Yeremeyev. I think you guys probably this time of night, some night before, talked about this, but oh my gosh, he was speaking from the Duma, and he was basically saying it's time, folks, to call it a draw, essentially. And he was cracking on about, you know, NATO this, NATO that. You know, we can't fight NATO. 50% of the world's economy is in NATO, and we have 2%, and war's economic too, but they can't beat us either. So yeah. Anyways, I just want to say that.
Oh, was that the little Russian Duma representative that got hauled off the stage after about 3 minutes and told
Yeah,
your time's up?
yeah,
When yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah. They mucked up there. That was the wrong bloke.
Oh,
they
did
didn't
they get the?
manage. They didn't manage that very well. But yes, it has been duly noted. Yanni, you got the numbers yet?
Yep, I do. So let's see. On the night of February 3rd, From 1800 on February 2nd, the enemy carried out a combined strike on Ukraine using various types of air and ground based missiles and strike UAVs. In total, the Air Force radio technical troops recorded 521 means of air attacks. 4 Zircon Onyx missiles, launch area of the Crimean Autonomous Republic, 32 Iskanders MS 300 ballistic missiles, launch area Bryansk region, actually, I'm going to start calling it not the Russian Federation, the Republic of Russia, because that pisses off for Russians. And the Crimean Autonomous Republic, 7 KH-22 and KH-32 cruise missiles from the airspace of the Bryansk region in the uh, Russian Republic, 28 cruise missiles, X-101 Iskander K Caspian Sea Kursk region, 450 UAVs of the Shahed Berbera Talmas type and drones of other types from the direction of Bryansk, Kursk, Orel, Shatalovo, Milerovo, Primorsko, Akhtarsk, Russian Republic. About 300 of them were Shahids. The main directions of these attacks were Kiev, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Vinnytsia, Odessa regions. The air attacks were repelled by aviation, anti-aircraft missile troops, electronic warfare, and unmanned system units and mobile fire groups of the Defense Forces of Ukraine. According to the preliminary data as of 9:30 a.m., the defense system shot down and suppressed 450 targets, 38 missiles, and 412 drones of various types, 4 Zircon Onyx missiles, 11 Iskander MS-300 ballistic missiles, 3 KH-22, KH-32 cruise missiles, 20 KH-101 Iskander K cruise missiles, 412 strike UAVs of various types. Hits of 27 missiles and 31 strike UAVs were recorded at 27 locations, as well as the fall of downed fragments UAV at 17 locations. Information of 6 enemy missiles is being clarified. The attack continues, and there are several enemy UAVs in the airspace. Follow the safety rules. Let's hold the Ukrainian skies together to victory. That's a lot. That tells me that they wanted to ceasefire because it was from what I have understood, it was like a request. Um, and it was agreed upon. This I find amazing at the audacity and the hubris of not only the Russians but also President Trump. They're like, oh yeah, let's have a ceasefire, and they don't include the other party that is being attacked. That is just disgusting, in my opinion. Uh, Ukraine should always, when you're talking about Ukraine and this genocidal war in Ukraine, Ukraine should always have a seat at the table. No discussions without Ukraine. I would like to have Europe involved as well, since it takes place on the European continent. But Ukraine is a must at the table. It like don't even. Anyways, over to you, Firefella.
So, Yanni, are you aware of what the Baltics have been doing with their RAFs?
The IRS?
No, they're all their aircraft in Sweden, Finland, and Norway. Sorry, I was thinking about something else then. Have you heard about all the agreements that they've come to?
Well, are you talking about the Nordic Air Force response or
Yeah, the Nordic
response team?
Air Force Wing, they're going to call it now. There's an article being done, and I won't be able to see any hands, so I'll ask you to look for hands if I read it. I'm just going to read it in a second. But have you heard about it?
So if it is what I think it is, yes, this was an agreement that was signed in, I believe, 2023. But yeah, please read.
Yeah, but quietly but surely they've been getting on with stuff. So I'll just read you the article. So 250 fighters, one sky, zero hesitation is the headline. The Silent Revolution, how the North became Europe's air power fortress. There's a revolution happening in European defence, and most people haven't noticed it yet. While defence ministries across the continent debate procurement timelines and squabble over budgets, something extraordinary has taken shape above the frozen forests and windswept fjords of northern Europe. Not through grand summits or dramatic announcements, but through quiet, relentless work of pilots, planners, and commanders who decided the old way of doing things simply wouldn't cut it anymore. The result: a unified air combat force that has waves, Gripen, aircraft packed with sensors that can see through weak weather darkness and hundreds of miles of hostile airspace. Spread across the four nations, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. These jets represent something unprecedented in post-Cold War Europe. This isn't a coalition that needs to be assembled when a crisis strikes. This is an alliance that exists primarily on paper, waiting for politicians to give the green light. There is only operational reality today, right now. When a Russian aircraft probes Nordic airspace, the response doesn't come from one nation scrambling to coordinate its neighbours. It comes from a network that already knows what to do, has already changed for this exact scenario hundreds of times, and can act with the speed and precision of a single unified force. So geography is destiny and opportunity. Look at a map, really look at it, of the Baltics. The Nordic region controls most of the strategic vital areas on the planet. The North Atlantic, the lifeline connecting North Europe to Northern America to Europe, I should say. Every ship, every aircraft, every soldier that would reinforce Europe in a crisis must pass through these waters and skies. The Nordics are the gatekeepers. The Arctic, where the great power competition is intensifying as ice melts and new shipping routes emerge, where Russian strategic submarines operate, where the future of European security is quite literally being reshaped by climate change. The Nordics own the southern approach. The Baltic Sea, one of the most militarized flashpoints in Europe, the vulnerability points for the Baltic states, a narrow contested space where freedom of movement can never be taken for granted. The Nordics dominate the air above it. So let's just go to. So this integration has been stress tested in peacetime, the kind that actually works when bullets start flying. The network is a weapon, is the weapon. Modern air combat isn't about individual dogfights anymore. It's about those that can see first, understand fastest, and act decisively. The Nordic Air Force has built something that most of Europe is still aspiring to, a genuinely networked force where every sensor feeds into a common picture, where data flows seamlessly across borders, where decisions can be made at the speed of modern warfare rather than the speed of bureaucracy. When the Norwegian F-35 detects a threat, Swedish Gripens already know about it. Danish pilots are already adjusting their positions. Finnish commanders are already 3 steps ahead in the decision cycle. The entire system moves as one organism. This is the operational reality. Tested in exercises involve hundreds of aircraft operating across millions of square kilometers of airspace. The kind of exercises where one European nation sends observers specifically to understand how the hell the Nordics made it look so easy. The shockwave. Let's talk about what this means in cold, hard strategic terms. All right, deterrence. A potential adversary doesn't see 4 small Nordic countries it might intimidate separately. It sees a unified force with mass, depth, and demonstrated ability to act immediately. That calculation changes everything. NATO's northern anchor. The alliance now has a northern flank that isn't vulnerable to be worried about. It's a position of strength to be leveraged. The Baltic states aren't isolated. The North Atlantic isn't unguarded. The Arctic isn't uncontested. So let's just go to the thing. So what do you think about that?
So, being a Nordic part of the Nordics,
Hope it makes you slightly proud, because I would be. That's a fantastic effort.
it is. And yeah, this is what this little piece of Europe is doing what NATO wants it to be. And actually, I think it's funny that they only talk about the Air Force. It's not just the Air Force. We are doing the same when it comes to the Army and the Navy as well. So obviously, if there's a threat, instead of having four countries talking to each other, there is a central command. That command sits up in northern Norway. It's a command center. And in case of an attack, I do believe that the Baltic countries are a part of this. They don't have any fast jets, or they have very few of them. And so it's up to the Nordics have taken it upon themselves, if I have understood things correctly. I could be wrong about this, just as a disclaimer. But from what I have understood, the Nordics will take care of any threat incoming in the air over the Nordics. That includes Iceland and I believe the Baltics. So instead of four countries scrambling independently, if a threat is incoming, the command of four nations, the Air Force of four nations, will be transferred over to this command center in northern Norway. I believe it's near Tromsø, but I could be wrong. It's not in Tromsø, that much I know, but I think it was near there. And all the orders, like any orders that you're getting, that is the one that you listen to, the one that comes from the Nordic Air Force Command. And you will face four nations fighting as one. And because we've had so many exercises over the years, we started, I know that Sweden and Finland joined in on exercises in the mid 90s, like 96, 97. We started getting invited into different exercises. And this is a way to make sure it's a deterrence, right? Because facing just Finland is fine. It might be fine. Actually, you will die, but um, but now you're not facing only Finland. You're facing Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. And because we've had so many exercises, we know, and we also have, believe it or not, Gripen is using the same radio systems as we use Link 16. Gripen is very integrated into the NATO standards, so they can, like, Gripen will get the commands as well. It's not like they're being outside of the system. So we will strike as one. Um, so if Norway is scrambling because there's a threat incoming from Murmansk up to northern Norway, Sweden will know about it. And we do have Air Force bases up in the northern part of Sweden as well. And so we will help them. Same thing, if anything happens in Finland, then Sweden and Norway will, and Denmark will know about this, and we will push our Air Force. And it is beautiful. It's amazing. So in less than 3 years, the Nordics have made this work seamlessly by having one central command. The aspiration is to have it for the Navy and for the Army as well. I imagine that Finland will be heading the Army, so any command will come out of Finland because they are the front line because of their massive border with Russia. And when I have looked at the logistics in Sweden, everything we have, like the Swedish military have like one goal, it's to push as much as possible into northern Finland. And this has been our policy for decades. If anything happens, the north must hold. And I think that there is an agreement. Obviously, I'm not privy to these agreements, but from what I have understood when I'm reading the open source information, is that Sweden's policy has been with Finland when we were before we were a part of NATO was that Finland will hold the southern part of Finland and Sweden will hold the northern part of Finland and make sure that the Russians do not, like, we will be like Gandalf, you shall not pass. And now Norway, or yeah, northern Norway is a part of this as well. So uh, it's it's an interesting, it's interesting to see, and I don't know if this works so well because together the Nordics are like 25 million people, maybe 26. We're not that huge, but the fact that we have been able to make this work so seamlessly with the Air Force, it gives me hope that the Army and the Navy will follow as well. Anyway, back to you, Firefella.
No. So I think that's a really good way of describing it. And if people could think about it in the following terms, so the Nordics are not four separate nations now in terms of air cover. They are one strategic entity. And you're right, there is one command and control center, and there is one officer in charge who is in charge of the whole, all four nations' aircraft, 24/7. Now that position rotates between the nations, so you might have a Finnish one, a Swedish one, another one. I can't remember, another commander. But what they do is they say, right, you're in charge. We will take all our orders from you. That's not to say they don't talk to each other whilst they're not making decisions and get advice from each other. That's not how it works. It absolutely does. I mean, if you're an officer in charge, you don't just make the decisions on your own. You listen to your team, and each commander will have a team beyond going, right, I think we should do this, do this. But they've made it so that all four nations are one air force, and it doesn't matter. The orders just come down from the command and control center, and they absolutely are there to batter the shit out of the Russians. And it is a massive step forward. So all the stuff that we moan about with NATO about not being able to get to agreements because one country wants this, another country wants that. The Nordics have got over that, and they've all gone in a room and sat down and say, right, everybody, leave your what's it at the door, your all your kudos and all that nastiness. There's a word I'm trying to find. Would I go ahead?
I just have a follow-up from what Jenny being mentioning earlier related to this quote-unquote Ukraine's war. That's actually from where it's coming. You can see the latest message in the nest, and there is the former there is the actual U.S. Army General Christopher Cavoli, who is saying, using the term Ukraine conflict, by saying Ukraine conflict, using Ukraine conflict instead of Russia's war in Ukraine, then, there are many reasons why people use the term conflict there, but not saying who is the aggressor, or, Kabul is very, let's say, pro Ukraine, or how to put it around, pro rule of law guy, military guy, and I probably, when not under the camera and not being recorded, I believe he also considers that someone has to bomb the shit out of Russia. But when people say Ukraine conflict, that's the first step from saying Ukraine's war. By just properly saying it from the very beginning, Russia's war in Ukraine or Russia's brutal aggression on Ukraine, it leaves no possible manipulations towards kind of using the word smartly. Ukraine conflict, okay, there is some conflict in Ukraine, who knows who is fighting there. Maybe Ukrainians are just fighting each other, just Ukraine conflict. Yeah, it's complicated. But when you say Russia's war in Ukraine, you're actually starts. You actually mentioned it from the very beginning. Who's the aggressor, and who is the victim? And in that way, it is much easier and straightforward to express yourself instead of just these foggy formulations. Ukraine's conflict, but people like to be politically correct, and they always like to. And diplomacy is the art of living the doors open for all the opportunities. Maybe buying gas, oil from Russia, and I would like to remind that European countries or European countries of NATO still buy Russian oil, Russian gas on an annual basis, quite larger amount rather than support that is provided to Ukraine fighting against Russia and Russian imperial ambitions, not only on Ukraine but also European countries. Suicidal is that, but this is the reality. That some past decisions put the European continent in that dependence and in that danger. But we can talk ages about that. So, but coming back to the point, Ukraine conflict is the first step to saying Ukraine's war. I'm not saying that Mr. Cavoli is the person who does that. Sometimes people do it from political matters. They use this comfortable expressions for not being blamed that they are too much hard on Russia or whatever. But there the source lays. If the top officials use such expressions, what prohibits the person neighbor right next door to you saying, Ukraine conflict or Ukraine's war, meaning the war on the territory of Ukraine. But the right wording from the very beginning says, makes it more precise. Russia's war in Ukraine, Russia brutal aggression. Russia is the aggressor, Ukraine is the victim, who been living peaceful life before Russians came. I believe this is sometimes important because words matter. Back to you.
No, Bulldog, I couldn't agree with you more, sir. Words do matter, especially in terms of command and people's understanding of what's going on. And it's part of the Russian propaganda. That's all this is, that they put that term, Ukraine conflict, in European and American minds. And you're right, it's Russians' war in Ukraine. It's not Ukraine's conflict. It never has been and never will be. And people need to be clear, especially our leaders. Our leaders need to be absolutely crystal clear, 100%, and never fall into the trap of Russian propaganda, which is exactly what it is. To call it a Ukraine conflict is to say Russia has nothing to do with it. Well, I'm sorry, people. Russia has everything to do with it, and I'm with you, War Doggo. It is Russia's war of genocidal aggression in Ukraine, people. And please, whenever you're talking to people, wherever you meet them, however you meet them, and they use Ukraine conflict, just gently but firmly rearrange their brain cells and go, "Oh, thank you, Decoding. I thought you'd come up and help me out, sir, but I'll just finish." Just rearrange their brain cells and say, "Yeah, that's the perceived thing. It's not. It's a Russian genocidal war in Ukraine." Decoding, sir.
Hi there. Thank you both for being there. Good to hear War Dogo, as ever. I think the War Doggo, this might prompt the memory in War Doggo, but I believe the Verkhovna Rada has officially archetyped this war as Ukraine's war for independence. Maybe that will spark the memory of War Doggo. It hasn't taken fire yet, but this is a clear demarcation strategy to determine in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, this war will be seen archetyped using that term out.
If we exist till that time and Russia do not succeed in their genocidal, aggressive matters, and we have enough will and and self-confidence of our European partners to support Ukraine to the extent not just holding the line, but actually defending independence, because Ukraine belong to the crown of European nations, and Ukraine definitely makes the whole better sense of the new world and European order on the European continent with all the geopolitical shifts that are happening. And look, Ukraine, who is you probably, not many people actually noticed when during the Davos speech, Davos, Switzerland, Swiss Economical Forum, when Ukraine's president actually start paving the Ukraine's strategic tasks in his speech, when he said that if you have the problems to think the Russian shadow fleet, here we are to help you. We know how to do this from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and here is our hand of help. And this is Ukraine's ambitions to be among the strong European security future concept, being capable, and what is the most important, being let's say being determined to actions rather than political dancing around a certain solutions. Just simply, we don't have time to do some certain to do some certain bargaining, to do some certain things. Being in the middle of our existential fight for our existence, and as you rightly mentioned, Ukraine's independence war leaves no big margin for all of these things. Just crisp and clear. You have to hear how Ukrainian top politicians or top let's say administration speaks. They, even in their chats, even in their meetings, online or offline, they are always crisp, they're always straightforward. They're saying if someone is using step left or step right, he is immediately brought to the point saying, hey, how that serves our survival tomorrow. Let's focus on tomorrow, the next period of time, in order to avoid the firefighting, because the strategic agenda starts now, and paving our way to some certain long-term strategy will easy the fight tomorrow. Yes, but tomorrow is one of the priorities, how we stick to tomorrow. That's quite interesting thing, and I literally see Ukraine being capable to integrate and bring strengths to the security concept, security concept of the continent. And for that, we just simply need to kick the Russians out, and to, as you always say, Decoding, that their kids remember that behind their western borders there are other dragons living there, and they shouldn't think even to invading those peaceful living people who can beat shit out of them if they try. Back to you.
Well, Doggo, that does leave a point, really. So internally in Ukraine, how is the war referred to? Do they put it the Russian war, or do they call it the War of Independence, or what do they call it? Or just the war? I would have said by now. I don't know.
Full-scale war. There is only one, let's say, distinguish in between. If you want to say something that is back before February 24, 2022, or you want to say something related to the to the full-scale war. So we're saying before the full-scale invasion, or
full-scale invasion. But you don't have to convince anyone in Ukraine who's the aggressor and who's the victim for sure.
No, War Dog. I didn't mean it. It was just an interesting point in my little brain about, and that makes complete sense. So, the little invasion and the full invasion, I totally get that, and that's how people would talk about it, and that's absolutely right and proper. Our point about Western politicians is absolutely on point, though, or your point is absolutely on point, though. It's not Ukraine conflict; it's Russians' genocidal invasion, and there's a nod to Jenny about that. So that's the way we should talk about it, people, and that's how I hope we all interact with our colleagues, friends, and acquaintances. And if they need educating, that's how we do it. So there you go. Okay, Jenny, what should we talk about now?
Well, I'm gonna go find a post that was sent to me by Midwest Fella. Uh, the Russians have set a new world record in the high jump and the long jump, all in one. And obviously, because they're Russians, they can't do anything without the help of Ukrainians. So this guy had help from Ukraine, and uh, give me just a few seconds, and it will be in the nest. It's
This is not a
really
turret. This is not a turret toss. This is a complete and utter high jump and the long jump combined, is it?
yes. Look at that guy go. Um,
One less Vatnik to worry about.
yes, it is. But damn, the height on that guy. I'm super impressed. But again, Russians can't do anything without the help of Ukrainians. So they helped him achieve this goal, achieve this record. So it's an impressive one. And thank you, Midwest fella, for for sending me that one. Um, I don't think I've ever seen anybody bounce that high, and I've looked at ski jumps, and I don't even think they get that much airtime. Uh, and neither did Michael Jordan, who was the king on the basketball court with the longest hang time of all times, I think. But that is impressive. What do you think?
No. I did see that yesterday. I just didn't bookmark it. But yeah, that's an impressive. I don't know what you'd call it. Jump. Let's put it that way. And he gets nothing for the landing, by the way. So I just want to finish up on the air wing thing and just remind people that Ukraine is uh, set to get an upgrade from Sweden. Sweden is set to deliver radars, electronic warfare systems, drones, and potentially Gripen jets with Meteor missiles. Now, we did have a lot of chat about when the Gripens are coming. Have you got any sort of update, Yenny?
You know, they say loose lips sink ships, and there are no loose lips over here in Sweden. So I have no information whatsoever because I'm not invited to the parties. It's like they know that I infrequently co-host on Twitter, and they're afraid that I will blab and go like, "Ha ha, Ukraine's gonna get Gripen." One the rumors that I have seen is that they're gonna get the meteor, and yesterday, because I haven't done that much research into the meteor, it was it is a missile that was put together by several European countries, Sweden among them. It has a jet engine and it has navigation. So if I remember correctly, it can change course. So you lock on target and then it can change, but it is beyond visual. So it goes up in the air to a high altitude and then it looks down, finds its target, and then it drops down. From what I've heard, if the meteor gets a missile lock on you, if it gets a lock on you, you're pretty much dead. There's very little that escapes it. And whether or not they get Gripen, they can still use the meteor, can't they? Which would be a beautiful thing. It will be a lot of Russians being eliminated with the meteor. And I don't know if there are any American components in this thing. I think it might be all European.
No,
So that's a
I'm
good
pretty
thing.
sure it's all European, Yenny, and that's why people are jumping up and down the fact that the USA has no say in this movement of weapons at all. So I'd heard like you that the Gripens are coming in 2026, and guess what, people? We're a whole month into 2026. So when they turn up, I hope to see Russians falling out of the sky with alarming regularity. But that's all I heard. So yeah, that's where I am with it.
So what I have heard, what like back when I talked to the Air Force guys, like Latin America, Hopsy, and those guys, they said that with Gripen, uh, it is so. First of all, I'm not saying that Gripen is better than F-16. This would be like saying that Ferrari is a better car than Volvo. Yes, on paper, but they're built for completely different things, aren't they? So, what is the purpose? The F-16 and the F-35 are attack aircraft. They're meant to attack, whereas Gripen was built to defend. And those are two different strategies. And and they both shine in their own, like in their own niche. And so to say that one is better than the other, it's kind of pointless because they do different things. The purpose of Gripen was make sure that nobody gets across the border, and they do that beautifully. And then you have the the fact that they can land and take off on on simple highways as long as they have. I think it's in Sweden we have these. We call them flygraka, which means aircraft straightaway. So you have roads specifically built to for Gripen to land on and take off. And I believe that the landing is they need a minimum of like a kilometer to land on. And I believe it's like half a kilometer, 500 meters, which you can convert into yards. They're fairly similar to take off. And then when Sweden, the government and the armed forces of Sweden approached Saab, which is actually they built aircraft. That's actually what they do. It's Saab means Swedish aeroplane and then limited. It's AB in Swedish. So that's the name of the company. They that they build cars and lorries. That's like a like a distraction, but their main purpose was to build aircraft. And when the Swedish government approached them, they said, you need to build something that is easily maintained because we're going to have 19-year-old conscripts maintaining this thing. So it can't be overly complicated. It can't require too many hours uh, in the service halls, and it's meant to defend Sweden. Those were the part of the requirements. This is why you can have 6 conscripts and 1 engineer service Gripen, and you can do it on the side of the road. They can actually switch out the engine at the side of the road. And I heard a former pilot say, like when he was asked the question, "Why do you only have one engine rather than 2?" And he's like, mainly because you cut the engine failure down by half. So if you only have one, you make sure. But as far as I have been able to research, there has never been an engine failure in Gripen. So, maybe that philosophy works. So they're built for different things. But one of the things that we will see once Gripen turns up is that the Russians will retreat from the Ukrainian border because of Meteor, because it has such a long range. It has officially a range of 200 kilometers. That's quite a long ways. It's like but I don't understand the details. Me and the Midwest Fala are one day are going to do a space about the different missiles and other things that go boom one day. And we will talk about the difference and go into geeky details about the all the different missiles that will be available. But my hope and belief is that Sweden will not announce when Gripen will turn up in Ukraine. We will just notice it by seeing an uptick in Russian stuff falling out of the sky. That is my belief. Back to you, Firefella.
No, I couldn't agree more. So they're different platforms, aren't they? And they absolutely do different things. I think in an F-35, after it goes on a flight, it needs a 4-hour servicing time after it. An F-16, 2 hours, and a Gripen, half an hour, and it's all plug-in. So you don't need a specialist technician to uh, manage it. You just need, like you said, a 19-year-old conscript that's had a few days instruction about, right, you take this pod out and you put that pod in. So it's all serviceable straight away. And it's about keeping it operationally ready, which is the Grippen's thing. So it can land on a short runway, take off on a short runway, and be sped away. And only, I think it's a crew of about 8 it only needs, and 1 fuel truck, as opposed to all the malarkey that F-16s and F-35s need. Uh, Not that Ukraine's got F-35s, but they will have them before long, I bet you people. But that's another story. But yeah, so it's a different platform, does different things, and I'm like you. I'm just waiting for the day that it starts shooting Su-21s, 25s, whatever they are, out of the sky, and we just go, oh, how did that happen then? And that's where we are with it. So I'm quite happy with that. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But I look forward to the show. If you're going to do that with Midwest Fella, that'll be a good listen. That will be. I'll definitely listen in on that one. Over to you.
Yeah, I I'm kind of a geek, and I know that Midwest fella, he knows a lot about the different munitions, and so I'm gonna use that because he is super smart when it comes to things that go boom. Really, really smart. If you don't follow him, give him a follow. It's well worth it because then you can hear him when he speaks, and he really knows his stuff. Because that's one of his interests. So I'm just going to take advantage of that because that's how I am. Yeah, so there's a video, and I will go and find it and probably make a post about it. What it looks like when the conscript and the one engineer goes in and rearms and refuels Gripen. Also, Gripen can be refueled while the engine is running. That's like one of the main things, even on the ground, not just like refueling in the air, because obviously you don't cut off your engine when you're refueling in the air. And it looks like a Formula One team. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and they do that. Obviously, they will help a friend out if there's something that like they don't know what they're doing or they need help, but everybody goes in with their purpose in mind. I'm supposed to check over the tires on the landing gear, so this is what I'm doing. I'm supposed to rearm. Me and my buddy were supposed to put in new munitions and new missiles and Lord knows what else that they have. And that is what they do. They don't mess with the tires. And so everybody has their purpose and they go in like a Formula One team. And this is why the turnaround time of Gripen is officially it's 20 minutes. Unofficially, it's down to 10. That means we're open for business. Just saying. Thank you. Back to you.
No, brilliant effort. And with that, we've reached the top of the hour, Jenny. So it's time to go. I need to run away and hide my embarrassment about the 20-minute start to the show, which I'm sorry about, people, again. And yeah, I am really sorry. But there you go. I overslept, and I'm a yeah. I won't say it on there. But anyway, people, don't forget. So support the fundraisers in the nest, and if you support other fundraisers, that's fine. $5, $10, all it all helps War Doggo and his SBU fellas on the front line to eliminate orcs. And with that, I'll say Slava Ukraini.
Here, Slava.
Oh, it would help if I actually unmuted when I say Heroim Slava, doesn't it?
It's only a little foobar. I got the biggest foobar of the morning, so you're fine, Jenny. Hiram Slava.
Slava Nazi.
Smith for the hum.
And as always, fuck Russia.
Fuck Russia. Over to you, Prince. Take us home. Thank you ever so much, everyone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wherever you are in the world, I hope that you have as good a day as you possibly can. We will see you tomorrow. And until then, I will say Scarababachimus.